This is an intro to Ubuntu course where basically it's for people who have never used Linux before and you just want to try it out and see what you have there. And this is really quite powerful operating system. It is free. You can donate to it if you like. That does help. But it works on tons of different devices and also has tons of applications that you can use for free. So like for instance we have the desktop one here. We have the phone, a tablet. It's all the same operating system. So once you learn one, you basically learn them all. It even works on your television. It works for servers, which someone intro wouldn't be interested in, and does cloud and does management. And I could keep going, but yeah, it's got a lot of stuff. It's very, very powerful. So Ubuntu desktop is probably what you're most likely interested in here for this discussion. But you can just download and install it. It has lots of features and has lots of capabilities. So let's go over how to do that. Now I'm going to be installing this into a virtual machine, which is like running a computer inside of a computer. But if you're installing this on your computer, you're actually going to download this CD ISO, as it's called. An ISO is a special file that you can burn off onto a CD, and then you can simply basically install it. After you put it on a DVD or CD or Blu-ray disc, you can install it on your computer. Now I'm going to go over here. I clicked on the more. You can also click on download to get you there too. And I'm going to select from 12.04. You might be going, well, why not 13.04? Well, 13.04 has short-term support, so it's not going to get supported for a long time. And 12. It's only going to be supported for 9 months. They're going to be replacing it with 14.04. Whereas 12.04 is supposed to be supported all the way up to 2017. So if you want something that's going to be around longer, then definitely go with 12.4. I'm going to go with 64-bit because most computers at this point are 64-bit. Unless you have a computer that's like over 6 years old or something like that, you have a 64-bit computer, basically. Alright, so I'm just going to click on download here. If I click on Ubuntu 12.04 LTS, which is long-term service, this is where you can donate to them if you want. I'm not going to do that for the purposes here. You can just zero all these out if you like. But you can actually determine if you want to donate where you want your money to go to in order to help make things better. It's already really good, but you can basically improve things that you want or whatever by just giving little tips, a little bit of money. And it does make a difference. Alright, so I'm going to contribute anything now. We are going to come here. Alright, so now it pops up, right? And tells me I need to save. Alright, so I'm going to save into my drive here. You save it wherever you like, but remember where you save it. That's the key. If you forget, you won't be able to find it later, and that'll be a problem. Alright, so networking. We'll go into Linux here. For me, I kind of organize my stuff like this, so it's just whatever you want to do. But it is a good idea to be organized on your computer. Alright, so I'm downloading Ubuntu now. And this is it's now downloading right here in the corner. And this file takes a hot minute to download because it's a good size. It's 700 megs because it is the size of a CD. Exactly. And we can actually use it to install it. Now, key thing here is I can actually go and download something called ImageBurn, IMGBURN. And this is cool because normally when you do this, it costs a decent amount of money to buy one of these programs that can burn ISOs, usually around $100. But ImageBurn is open source, just like Linux, and it's free. And it will let you burn these ISOs for free. So you don't have to worry about it. So if we go to our download section here on the site, we get all these different possible downloads that we can try here. And just ignore all this stuff up here. And they got lots of stuff we're probably not interested in. But it's okay because the one we're interested in here is this right here. This is ImageBurn. Any of these right here would work. And I can download provided by ImageBurn if I like, which I'm going to do because I don't want to deal with the other things there. Put it nicely. I'm going to say save, and it's downloading. So this is free software. It's totally safe. It won't have any viruses or anything like that. It's just open source. There's a lot of source out there. There's a lot of programs out there open source that are free. And on Linux, we probably have like over 1 million programs that are free they can use for just about anything you could think of. And most of them are really good. Some of them are better than products you pay hundreds of or thousands of dollars for. Uh, it's just there's a lot of really good software up on Linux that is free and open source. And you'll be amazed too how easy it is to use this stuff. Alright, so that's downloading, and so I'm going to just go ahead and pause this video where we're at right now, and then we'll come back to it. Oh, I take it back. We already have it set up for installation, so let me go ahead and run that program. Pops up and tells me, hey, I could burn an ISO with this. I'll say, yes, I can. Alright. Then I say, yes, I want to install this. It says, alright, you need to install it. I'm going to say, accept terms and license agreement. And reset images. So this is if you want to burn off a disk. Now again, I don't have to do this if I don't want to burn off a disk, but in this case I'm going to say yeah. I'm going to put this under accessories just because I feel like that should be under accessories because it's more like something that should go under accessories, like image for DVD burning. So do that right there. You can put yours wherever you want, but I think that's a good place for it. Alright, next. And I don't want all this stuff. Toolbar, no, that doesn't sound right. Install, no. Yeah, we don't want that. And yeah, so we don't want any of that stuff. So make sure you set yours to custom installation and uncheck that stuff. Because otherwise it's going to install a bunch of stuff you don't want. They didn't used to do that, so that's new. Uncheck FrostWire because I don't want FrostWire. Okay. And we should have integer now. Okay. So with that, actually, hold on a second. Okay, close that. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and run this program. And now we have where it says write image file to disk. Well, once this ISO downloads, all we have to do in order to burn off a new CD from this thing is to come in here like this, and then I can go in and I can literally select a file. So I'll be able to come in here like so. Now we're not done downloading this file, so I'm going to select a different CD just so you can see how to go about it. Let's see here. Let me scroll it down a bit. Go into here, and then like say I had it downloaded. It'd be like this one right here. I would be able to then select it, but I'm not allowed to yet because it's not done downloading. But if I were, it would be able to burn it off. So that's kind of what's going on there. I'll choose a different one. You should be able to see it happen. Working. Now yours, of course, will be in a different location, but it's whatever. Alright, so let's say there's that one right there. See, and then it accepts it. And I could do a test mode to do a test on it. I have to put a CD in here, so it's got to be able to recognize a blank CD. But once I do, I can just hit this button here, and it'll literally burn it. And then we'll have a brand new CD of the operating system. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and pause the video and wait for that to download, and so I can show you how we're going to install this. And then you would put the CD in your computer. I'm sorry, I should mention that. You put the CD in your computer, and then you reboot your computer, and you would tell it to boot up from the CD. And once you do, you could start the installation process. Okay, so but here I'm going to go ahead and pause it, and then we'll have a look at this thing once it's done downloading. Cool. Okay, now we're downloaded, so I'm going to go ahead and start setting this up. Now, If you're going to do this with a virtual machine, you'll need to download one. And well, there's a lot of different good ones out there. But VMware Player, the other one is VirtualBox is nice. So if you're going to do it the way I'm doing it here, then you'll have to do this. But VMware Player is going to have like this is free for non-commercial purposes. Alright, so let's see here. Really want like 5.02 would be the best, really. Let's see here. Yeah, that's an old version. So let's say like I don't know. I really want the newest one, but yeah. Download. That's the one I'm looking for. There we go. And at this point in time, this is the latest one. So, but anyways, they have different VMware players. This actually works on a bunch of different operating systems. What this does is let you run an operating system inside of another one. So now I can come in here to my download, like so, and I can download this. So VMware Player 5.02, etc. I'm just going to go ahead and save that one also. And we're just going to go ahead and get that going. And on another note, Ubuntu is going to be the main most used Linux for desktop operating system. Okay, so I'm finished downloading now. And I'm just going to click this and choose my new VMware player. It's going to pop up and tell me that I can install it by saying yes. There is a VMware player for the workstation. It is actually better. I have an old version. I'm going to uninstall it real quick. And then I'm going to install my new version. And I have to say I definitely like 5.02 better than the older versions. So it's cleaner, I think, with fewer problems. So the workstation one works really good. That's the one you pay for. So you expect that. So if you run into issues with VMware Player, the free one, don't think that's the same deal with the workstation one. The workstation one is it's the one you pay for, so it's a really solid product. I've never had issues with the one that you pay for. The one that you have free, yeah, I've had some issues from time to time, but the one you pay for, it's worth the money. It really is nice. And I really enjoy it. You can actually simulate entire computer networks and stuff like that, like a whole bunch of computers. You can run multiple computers inside of a computer. It's really kind of cool. So like if you need to do something on the Mac and then something on Linux and something on Windows, you could run all three at once in your computer. So it lets you do that. So it's really cool software. It's really powerful, and it's really capable. The other thing that's nice about it is, say you got a virus on that virtual machine, it can only infect the virtual machine and not the rest of the computer. So that's pretty cool too. Alright, I guess I'll be right back after we do this restart. Okay, I've restarted, and so here we are with the installation wizard. It wants to say next now. Alrighty. And there's our VMware, and where do we want to install it? Sure. No, actually I don't want to. It's gonna, you can. I don't want to. Sure. Desktop and start browser. Yeah, that sounds great. And continue. And we're installing. Yay. Alright. So that's happening now. Getting a lot of that installed. And so yeah, Ubuntu is one of the most popular. It is the most popular distribution of Linux on the desktop. But not only that, it's also going to be the main one for games. Steam is going on for Ubuntu. Unity is making their games release on, not making them, they already have, the game engine exports directly for Ubuntu. It may work on other distributions of Linux, but they are officially supporting Ubuntu. So if you're wanting to play games and things like that on Linux, basically you need to use Ubuntu Linux for best compatibility. Also, the game's going to appear in the Ubuntu store in addition to Steam, and then Epic Games is going to be putting out games on Ubuntu too. So if games matter to you, then that's going to matter for you. Another note, you definitely want a NVIDIA card if you're wanting to do anything 3D. So if you want to do the 3D desktop called Compiz Fusion, or if you want to do 3D games, you better have an NVIDIA card. And the reason why is because NVIDIA is the only one that writes drivers that actually work respectively. I mean, there's other game graphics cards that they write drivers, but they really don't fully work. And so you'll end up with them partially working, and it'll be an issue. And then things will be a problem. I'm going to click Finish now. And I now have a new VMware player. Awesome. So I'm going to double click this now, and I'm going to create a new VMware player. Yes, we want to accept the license agreement terms. And here we go. And it's launching. Here we are. So I have a bunch of them, but I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you how to create one from scratch. Create a new virtual machine. Click on that, and we want to say I will install the operating system later. The virtual machine will be created with a blank hard disk. So that's what we want to do. Even though we're going to install from ISO, the problem is that this thing will automatically just choose options for us, and we don't want to do that. We want to do the actual real installation, so that way we can set how big we want our partitions to be, or how big we want it to how big we want it to be for the installation. Otherwise, we could end up with an installation where it's too small to install any programs and really use it. So we don't want that. So it detected it. It's going to be Linux, Ubuntu, 64-bit, or it didn't detect it, and that's just what I did last time. Probably what I did last time. And so anyways, Linux, and then you're going to come in through here, and you're going to find Ubuntu 64-bit right here, and you're going to select that. Next, I'm going to call this Ubuntu 12.04 64-bit edition here. And I'm going to save mine to a different location than my C drive. You don't have to. You can save it to your C drive. It's just whatever. Just a good place for it. Just find a good place for it. Now, when I'm doing this, though, I do want to create a folder for it. And the reason why is because all these files are going to get thrown in there. You don't want files all over the place. So I'll show you how to do that in just 1 second here as soon as I get to where I want to be. Alright. So inside of here, I got VMs. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm really organized on this stuff. I'm going to click on Create New Folder. I'm just going to call this Ubuntu. Well, I have to spell it correctly first, right? Ubuntu desktop, maybe. 12.04. No, not point, sorry. Shift _04. Yeah, it works. Alright. And so now it's named that. I'm going to say OK to it. Let's click the little folder next to it so it would take focus away from typing. Alright, say OK. And there we are. Install. Now I'm going to set this up to be 50 gigs. I don't like 20 gigs. I like 50 gigs. And I also don't like breaking this to multiple files. I like keeping it as a single file. I just prefer that. Alright. And then we can come into our custom hardware afterwards. Customize hardware. And you can decide how much memory you want to give this thing. Me, I got 8 gigs of RAM in my computer, so I'm going to go up to 4 gigs of RAM on this. Oh, on another note here, you can also just click 4 gigs of RAM, or 8, or 4. And so it jumps to the magical number that you want. So, by the way, there's that. I'm going to give it 1 core. I could give it 2 cores, really, because I got a quad core in this computer. So it's up to you what you want to do on that. So you can set however many cores you want to give it. You can't give it all the cores on the computer because you need to leave some cores for the operating system. Just like you can't give it all your RAM. If you do, you're going to have a problem. Right? Because you still have to leave some for Windows, and Windows needs a lot. So use ISO image, and this is the ISO file we downloaded earlier. So I'm going to go back over to my Linux. I'm going to find that desktop ISO 64-bit that we have right here. So Ubuntu-12.04.2 desktop-AMD64. That works. I'm going to say open. This works also on Intels. It's not just AMD. So ignore the fact that it says AMD on it. That's fine. It will work on both. Just fine. No problems. And then you can change this right here. Floppy, I'm not going to mess with it. I mean, it's fine. It's floppy. If you want, you may need to set this to bridged for some computers. If you do go to bridge, I usually say replicate physical network connection state. But for most people, NAT is going to work fine, and that'll be great. But bridged here is going to make it where you actually use the real physical hardware, and then you can network it with other computers easily. So yeah, let's see here: USB controller, sound card, printer, nothing changed. Display, accelerate 3D graphics is a good idea to have it checked. Basically, with that, it already comes pre-checked now. I'm going to click close, and I'm going to say finished. And that sets up our virtual machine. Now that does not get us set up for our actual install. It just gets us set up with our virtual machine. So let's now do the installation part. So this would be the same as if you had the disk put into the computer at this point here. So if I say play virtual machine, this is going to get bigger. Remind me later. Say OK. I'm not going to bother to resize the window because it's just going to change sizes several times here. Let's give it a moment. Now, if you're installing this from a disk, I highly recommend that we're going to install though. We're not going to try Ubuntu. You can actually run Ubuntu off a CD. You don't even have to install it on your computer. So if you just want to try it out, burning it off to that disk like I showed you with the image burn earlier, you can just pop in your computer, boot up your computer off the CD like this, select try Ubuntu at this point, and you can actually just run the Ubuntu off the CD. So that's a possibility. You can do that if you like. But we're going to install it, and we're going to say English. Make this a little bigger. Or I won't. It's whatever. Alright, so we're going to say install now. I typically don't want to download updates while installing. I'd like to do that after I'm done installing. And then we can also look at third-party software devices, so that's kind of cool. Let's see what third-party has for us. Yeah, we're going to say erase disk and install Ubuntu. Now, in the case of if you're installing this directly on your computer, I highly recommend you install this to a whole separate hard drive than on Windows. I don't recommend you wipe out your Windows. I recommend you keep your Windows around because there may be things you want on Windows that they don't have on Linux. There's going to be things on Linux that you're going to want that they don't have on Windows. Kind of goes both back and forth there on that. So I highly recommend that you install it to a separate hard drive. The other thing is you don't want to install it on the same hard drive as your Windows, because if you do, basically Linux and Windows battle each other. So Linux will balance Windows inodes. I'm not going to get into that, but basically it causes problems. There is a special feature in Ubuntu called Wooby, where you can actually install it directly into as a file within Windows, and that works pretty well. And then you can actually have Linux on the same hard drive with Windows, and it's not an issue with it balancing the inodes because it's like a file. However, sometimes Windows, I don't know what happens if Windows is corrupting it or if Linux is just somehow corrupting from maybe an update happening in Windows or some program runs and causes it. Sometimes that can happen. I've seen it happen, and if that does happen, you won't be able to boot up Wooby anymore, and you won't be able to access your files and your stuff. So that kind of sucks. So be aware of that. So my preference is to install it to a whole separate hard drive, and then if I need to update or install, if I need to reinstall Windows, I physically pull the hard drive from the computer, because it's the only way you can be sure that Windows will not, basically Windows will wipe out Ubuntu Linux, because it'll detect that it's not Windows and just wipe it, format it. It won't ask you, it'll just do it. So because of that, it is highly recommended that you physically pull the hard drive from the computer if you have to do that. Alright, but we're just going to erase that disk right there. And since it's a virtual machine, it's just the whole free disk, so, you know. Yeah, we're going to use the entire disk. I'm just going to say install now. And it detected that it's a VMware virtual disk, which is not a real hard drive. It's a software hard drive, where it pretends like it's a hard drive. So it's actually letting us do the configurations while also installing at the same time, which is awesome. So it saves you a lot of time on your installation. So you're actually configuring Linux as you're installing it, which is really, really cool. So this way you're doing something while you're waiting. Well, you're not waiting anymore, basically. While it's installing, you're doing the configuration. And by the way, virtual machines are way, way slower than the actual Linux installed on a computer. So if you're installing this actually on a computer, it may be like 100 times faster, no joke, when it's installed. Some of the virtual machines can run really slow on this stuff. Linux will typically shut down in less than 5 seconds. And on virtual machines, a lot of times it will take like 10 minutes to shut down. On a fast computer even. It takes a while. Also, a lot of times things that you click on for applications in Linux will tend to launch in about 1 second. On a virtual machine, it might take like 30 seconds for an application to launch. So you kind of get the idea. Or a minute, or a couple minutes, or whatever, you get the idea. So, things on the virtual machine go slower than they should, really. Okay. My name, I am Nate. And it's going to say Nate Virtual Machine for the name of the computer. Pick a username here, and then I'm going to assign it a password. So come up with a good password. Apparently I came up with a fair one. Helps if you make a match. That's maybe why that one's only fair. Alright. Wow. There you go. It's still fair. Oh, well. This tells you how good your password is, which is great. And so if you come up with a better password, it will say so. And it basically evaluates your password as to how easy it is to crack it. So fair password means it's pretty decent for security. You can have it log in automatically. I don't recommend this. Require my password to log in. I recommend that. Encrypt my home folder. You can do this. It basically means that someone couldn't go onto your computer and just steal your files because they'll be encrypted. The downside to this is if for any reason you forget your password, or you somehow something happens where your password file gets corrupted, you have no way of ever getting your files back. You could take it to recovery place, it won't matter. They will not be able to break the encryption, and they will not be able to get your files back. So there's the downside to that. I found that out the hard way. I didn't think anything could possibly happen with that, and it didn't forget the password. It just simply changed on where it wasn't accepting the password anymore. And I think there was some kind of issue that happened, and I believe my password access actually got corrupted, and then I was no longer able to access any of my encrypted files. And I backed up everything, thank God, but I lost a lot of files. Always back up your work. Best off to do it on the cloud, though. Something like Amazon Cloud would be good. Alright, so go. They're good, they're really cheap, so that's why I recommend them. And they're also very stable, and it works really good. It's very effective. It's pretty cheap per month. It's well worth it. I mean, you're only talking like, you can put gigs and gigs up there for like $1 or $2. It's just a month. It's just cheap. I use it a lot because it's awesome. All right. So this thing's installing, and it'll even, if we want, we can do this little drop down here, and we could see what it's doing. So we don't have to just rely, hey, it's the processing bar, blah blah blah. Now we can actually see what it's doing if you want to. So if you kind of want to see, hey, what's going on? I want to see what's happening. You can. It's kind of cool. If you don't want to see that, and you're like, that's just more information than I want, you can simply just hide that, and we just let it do its thing. So we need to let it, retrieve. Here's what I'm talking about. Some of the games, though, they got like Left 4 Dead 2. I mean, they've got a bunch of games on Steam on Ubuntu. So check it out. Puddle. I mean, you name it. There's lots of them. Serious Sam is another one. There's some serious AAA title games up on here, and yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty cool. Also, typically you'll find now you can't play games really inside of a virtual machine, but if you have Ubuntu installed directly on a computer, because it's just not fast enough, it doesn't have enough support for the OpenGL and for the 3D graphics. That's the problem. That's why you can't really do it, and you don't have the speed that you need. But if you run it in like Linux directly, you'll typically find Linux will run games faster than any other operating system. And so, playing games on Linux is totally awesome. It goes really, really fast. It's really great. Also, as a game developer, I have to say it's nice to have that kind of speed. I've made a game go like from 60 frames a second to 1,000 frames a second on Linux. So it's insane. It's really, really awesome. There's also tons of other programs though. Like check out GIMP editor here. It's like Photoshop more or less, and it's free. It's open source. You also have Pidity, however you say it, video editor. This is a video editor. It lets you edit videos and do transitions and all that stuff, etc. Along with the photo manager. No big deal on that, but there's lots of different applications on here. There's also stuff for like doing line work, like you would do in Illustrator. Not as advanced as Illustrator, but there's one called Inkscape that does that, and then there's also another one called Xara, Xara, and that lets you do hand draw on basically line work. That's really vector based, as it's called, and it lets you create some really nice artwork for print, things like that. If you need to like print brochures or anything like that, so yeah, pretty awesome. Xara is really good. You can do some really detailed. It doesn't have a ton of features. It has amazing performance, so you can draw really detailed drawings that you couldn't do in another program type thing. And so that's kind of its big deal. It's like you can do art in it that you can't do in another program, and it doesn't hardly bog it down because it's so efficient. So it's really, really good. There's also a bunch of programs for mixing music and composing music. Like you can write music scores, test out different instruments on it, play back all the instruments together in like an orchestra type set scenario or something like that if you wanted to. So you can actually compose music in there, all free. All that stuff's free. On top of that, there's video recording programs and things of that nature. You can also stream video as a website to everyone connecting to it. You can do that with a professional camera if you wanted. Yeah, they have actual professional video editing programs. They also have 3D graphics programs like Blender that let you create games, like 3D games, or you could create 3D films or 3D artwork for like print or for websites or for you name it. Just about anything you think of as far as that goes. You could also do it for mangas or comic books if you're one of those type of artists. They do have excellent support for graphics tablets if you're an artist. So that's really cool. To top it off, yeah, we use Firefox and Chrome on here. There's also Opera, but most people just use Firefox and Chrome, and they work really good. So that's the web browsers we have. Matter of fact, we have more features in them. Since it's Linux, since it was born on Linux, we get more features typically than that of people on like Windows or Mac or whatever they're using Firefox. So you may find some of the programs you know and love are actually on steroids on Linux, and then you've been using the reduced version on your main operating system. You've been using like Windows or Mac or whatever. All right, so here we go with that. Let's see here. Besides that, let's see. Yeah, you can do Flash. You have Flash installed on it. There's also stuff for architecture like QCAD. You can create architecture plans. Everything is just a two-dimensional CAD program. You can also use Blender to do three-dimensional CAD and ways of doing that too. Besides that, there's also, in addition to that, there's more programs. There's a whole bunch of programs if you're a programmer. There's tons of IDEs and drag and drop graphical programming programs in here. There's also an entire Office suite if you're a business person. You have a LibreOffice Writer. Calc is like your Excel. So this is like your Microsoft Word. This is like Excel. This is like your basically PowerPoint. They actually have like a PowerPoint on steroids with this. It's 3D. So if you had that NVIDIA card I was talking about, you can actually do 3D presentation, PowerPoint-like presentations. It's not PowerPoint. It's called Impress, but it's like Impress 3D. And it's really, really cool. You can also create web pages with this thing. They have database connectivity. You can kick out PDFs with it. It's really feature-rich. It has tons and tons of stuff. Yeah, it's tons of great things to say about it. It's really, really good. You'll be amazed. It's really good software. In addition to that, oh yeah, you can customize. If you like to customize stuff, oh my gosh, this is for you. You can customize anything and everything you can think of on the operating system. It's quite amazing. So yeah, it's really, really cool. And I think you'll find it pretty neat indeed. All right. So besides that, there's other things too. Besides that, I was talking about the programming. There's like hundreds of programming languages for free. You just download them on Linux. You won't have to pay thousands of dollars if you're a programmer to develop applications. You won't believe how much stuff there is for free. All kinds of stuff for Java, C++, C, I mean, you name it. OpenGL, etc. Python, Ruby, Perl. I can keep going. It's a lot. There's a ton of stuff on here for it. Besides that, let's try and think what else we have. Oh, we have financial software too for doing like accounting stuff and things of that nature. It's also on here. Oh, besides that, let's see. What else do they have? So much stuff. Like I said, it's like a million free programs. So I mean, your instant messengers, all those different types of instant messengers. Skype is on Linux now. And it's been on Linux for a while, actually. Man, so much stuff. Trying to think, what else should I bring up? Oh yeah, it's web development, like crazy. If you want to do web pages, you got web page development stuff on steroids on here, all free. Doesn't cost you anything. So went over video editing, went over. Oh yeah, you can do desktop recording, like I'm doing this video here. Yeah, you can do that too on here for free on Linux. It's going to kick it out in OGG format. So if you're using video editors other than Linux ones, they don't support OGG. Like your Adobe's don't support that. So if you kick out videos in that, then you can't edit them in those programs. So that's a bit of a problem. But it's not a problem with the fact they made OGG. It's a problem that Adobe hasn't supported it yet. So really should, because there's a lot of videos that are in OGG now. Maybe they have in the newer versions. I don't know. I'm thinking of older versions, so they may have. I don't know. And then let's see here. What's another thing? So much stuff. Security is insane on this thing. Absolutely awesome. You got really good security. They use AppArmor on here, and it really protects you very well. Some of the best protection around. And they also have firewalls and passwords and permission systems and all this stuff for security. You don't have to have constant. You'll see what I'm saying. It's really, really cool. Also, if you need to install software, like say there's some program you want to install, you don't have to go hunting around the internet to find it. They have a whole application installation system where you can just go in and hunt for the program you want to install, like search for it or go through the categories and find it. And then it'll just download and install for you. That's it. Need to do updates? No problem. Updates, installs all your software, not just for your operating system. Like, other operating systems, they do just the operating system update. Now, on the Ubuntu on Linux, man, it'll update the entire operating system along with all the applications. So it just makes life so much easier. for doing this stuff. It's really quite wonderful. So now you don't have like tons of pop-ups saying, hey, check to see if I need to be updated. Hey, check to see if I need to be updated. Hey, check to see if I need to be updated. You don't have to do all that. Instead, you just do one update for everything. Alright, we're going to say restart now. I'm going to have this remind me later. This window's not going to go full screen. Maybe. We'll see. Alright. So we might have a problem since that thing's set to the ISO. So we'll see. If it is, we'll have to power down the player and then unset it and then have it come up. We'll see what happens. I'm gonna cross my fingers here on this. Okay, didn't have to. Awesome. Okay, so come in here and I'll type in the password you gave it earlier. If you don't remember your password, you're gonna be reinstalling. So hope you remembered your password. Let's see if I can full size it. I absolutely can't. Alright, well, I was hopeful. Yeah, I have to install VMware tools. Now, if you have this installed directly on a computer, you don't have to worry about it. It is full screen. But for me, it's not, so that's a problem. Alrighty, well. So here's all these different applications. Here's the stuff. This is your dash. Dash is your main point here. So I'll point a few things out. It has your most recent apps and all that stuff pop up on it. Works like this also for, like, say, a cell phone or something like that. As far as that goes. And I'm not going to get into it right now, how all this stuff works, but we will go over it here in the next video. But so my name is Nate Nestler, and this is for Hyperactive Studios. Thank you very much.